Hello again everyone, I'm Mike Lowe, and in this video we are diving deep as we can, into training in NBA 2K23. We're going to see about mentorship and how much it matters. We're going to look at team training, individual training, and really just try to find the best combination to help a player like, say, Jaden Ivey, a 20-year-old top 5 pick, develop into the best player they can through their rookie season. Let's jump in and take a look and see what we can find. All right, so first thing, I'm going to try and just keep this as generic as I can, just using my best guess of what most people would be using to kind of start off a new MyNBA era here. We are using the modern era, but as I just kind of flip through my settings, you can see this is what we're using for the test, and I'll show you some other things here before we get started too. I'm going to be using a user-created roster, but really it's just a 2K roster that I have from opening night. I think I've shared this. Yeah, this is the October 18th 2K official roster. If you're interested, you can just go ahead and grab that. So again, just trying to keep everything as kind of static as I can for our testing here of training. Keep the teams the same here. Gonna turn off autosave. I don't really think there's too much here we need to change. Just a few adjustments on the features area here. We're going to turn these three options off. And we will have roster injuries turned on. Again, you can use whatever you want for these. But just a few little adjustments here that I just like to be transparent about, so when we do testing, you know exactly what's being done under the hood. Now, as we go over to the progression screen here, I'm going to just leave all of this on default. Again, I know there are a lot of different settings out there that you can adjust, and that's going to completely change a lot, right? So, but just to be clear for this test, we'll just leave these on default. Just to clarify, team selection, you can do whatever you want here. I know some people use all teams being selected, may just be one. So however you want to set that up, just go ahead, but there's nothing here that should really impact too much how training's being done. So let's talk through training then. I went ahead and selected my hometown Pistons here. And when we look at training, there's really only 3 areas that you really need to kind of keep an eye on. And that's player mentorship, the team training schedule, and then individual training. Prep Hub is just a reorganization of those very things, right? Here's your team training, here's your individual. Then of course this takes you into a couple different shortcuts for your coach, the game plan, and the system, but these aren't like new menus or anything. It's just a different way of presenting the information. And this screen here just kind of shows you just as it says, a hub of training information. So as we go and start to look around here, there are some other links within training, but again, these are more just like tracking tools, right? So we will eventually be able to see different players and ratings of what's being tracked here as a collective team or even as an individual. That will start to appear as we move forward. Again, the player development is the area where you'd see the actual players, but of course, same kind of thing. You can click through and you can see how a particular player is developing. So there's like nothing here that you're doing per se, but it's just a way for you to look at information and see what's working or perhaps what is not working. And then the last part on that screen is injury history. This will start to populate as you move forward. It doesn't track, I guess, real life injuries that are maybe beyond like the opening, whatever's attached to the actual roster. So for instance, here we have Alec Burks who's hurt, Noel's who is hurt. But again, these aren't going back necessarily like previous seasons or anything like this. But of course, if you click on a player, you can go in and start to see some of their injury history in case you're just not familiar. You can go through and you can look at all of this, and this will be pretty accurate based on a player's health or history in the league and that sort of thing. So again, you can see some players here, like there's more than just what's showing for Noel here with just a sore right foot. It's a lot more than that going on with his injury history. So, but this is a really useful area in training that you can start to look and see, because training is going to come down to the more you put in, the more you get out, right? But that's both good and bad. That's good for development, but it can also be bad for injuries. So let's run a few tests and see what we're talking about here. One of the first things you need to understand is that when it comes to training, there's not a lot of black and white happening in regards to if you do this, you get that, or if you do that, you get this. There is a lot happening in this game when it comes to training because it involves so much. So here we're looking at Jaden Ivey, the number 5 overall pick in the draft, first pick in the draft last year for the Pistons. And he's a good player to look at because he's young, he's got a lot of potential, and he's a player that obviously you're going to want to develop if you're the Pistons here, right? But before we even get into the actual game mechanics, let's get into the actual player attribute mechanics a little bit so that we understand a little bit. Now, rest assured, there's going to be some spoilers here. So if you're really specific or particular about not wanting to see ratings or things under the hood, you're going to want to skip past this part. So having said that, if we scroll down here under the vitals for Jaden Ivey, we can see a few things. First off, he's 20 years old. And we can see that his peak is going to start around age 25. It's going to end around 32. This is different for every player, but more or less they're pretty similar, right? His potential is an 86, but minimum potential of 82, max of 90. So again, that kind of puts him right in the middle here. But there are also these bust, average, and boom setups. And again, this always equals to 100%. It is not going to happen that he will be a bust. But it's a coin flip if he's going to be a boom, one of the best players in the league, or just, a good, maybe, starter or 6-man, something like that. That's a coin flip still. So right off the bat, we have that. Whether you adjust training or you do no training at all, these things are going to happen, right? And so I think it's important we look at these numbers because we can look to see if and when these change when we go through training, and then perhaps what is actually causing some of these different things to have an impact. One of the areas that will be really important is under badges, and that's going to be the work ethic badge, whether that's equipped or not. Again, there's different levels here, but of course, the harder worker a player is, there's a few things there. The quicker that they are likely to improve and develop in training or elsewhere. And then also their durability can come into play with that a little bit too. They can handle maybe more intense training and that sort of thing. They're going to be able to push through it. And again, but there's a lot of variables there too, because what if you have a high work ethic player who's pretty fragile, right? His durability is pretty bad. What do you do with that? So, ideally you have a player with a strong work ethic who is very durable and is open to you kind of pushing him in training. And then of course has some of those underlying elements that we saw earlier with Jaden, such as, a good potential player, very nice chance there of becoming a boom player. So there's a lot of different things that we can look at. So he will be our first test here is Jaden Ivey. Let's see what we can do with him. For this test, let's just kind of not worry about mentorship yet. Let's kind of keep this as simple as we can. We already have quite a bit we're looking at. So for this first quick sim here, we'll see what Jaden Ivey is looking like, I should say, at the end of season 1 here. He's 20 years old right now. He's a 76 overall, and we're just going to kind of go with just kind of the default out of the box training. All right, so here we are at the end of the season. And Jaden Ivey has progressed to a 79. It's actually more like a 78. I'll show you. But he played in all 82 games. I think he started 76 of them. So there's no injuries or anything like that going on. Pretty nice year. 16.6 points per game, 4 assists per game, 3 rebounds per game. And again, I can just kind of show you 30 minutes here. So just showing you an idea. This is a pretty, about as good as you can expect of a rookie season for, I think, just about any player. As far as like injuries and things like that, he looks like he was very, very healthy on the season. If we click over to his ratings, he was a 76 who was 20. He's now 21 and up to a 78. I guess his current kind of form, if you want to use kind of a soccer term there, he's up to about a 79 or so overall. So certainly has progressed nicely. Not a huge surprise there with his age. 5th pick in the draft and so on, like we talked about. So looking pretty good there. Just to kind of show you the rest of the ratings here, everything looks like it has gone up. Nothing has regressed. His potential is at a C+. And again, durability has gone up. So really just improving all the way around there. Nice steady increase there for Jaden Ivey. If we go in and look at his vitals again, spoiler alert, by the way, nothing here actually changed. And so I guess that might be normal. I thought that these maybe would fluctuate and so on, but everything here stayed exactly the same, for better or worse. But again, at least that helps us kind of keep things consistent. And again, Jaden Ivey, real nice rookie season here. But let's see if we can maybe bump that up a little bit and see what Jaden Ivey is looking like with a little bit more involvement from us, the user. Okay, so we're going to do the second season here, and this time we are going to give mentorship, I guess, to Jaden Ivey from Alec Burks. There's a few things here, I think, when you look at mentorship that you need to be careful of. One is the player's age. Like, I believe the older the player is who's the mentor, the better that impact is going to be, or the higher impact it can be. And certainly if there's a larger age gap. So it gives some value to older players, maybe aging veterans and that sort of thing. So Alec Burks fits that, right? He's older. He also plays the same position, which I believe helps with that as well. Where Burks is kind of lacking is he's not really, he doesn't have a ton to offer, but still I think this is probably our best bet. There are some, better players and so on that maybe we could try. But again, Bagley being so young, I'm not quite sure, matching him up with the center. Again, it's not really going to give us probably what we're looking for. And of course, a great player like Cade Cunningham, not much of an age gap there. So without going into free agency and that sort of thing, maybe there's not a whole ton we can do. But I guess what we could try and do is maybe use Boyan here. And just see if we could kind of work on some of the shooting. So let's look and see. Maybe let's do gold and then like a couple silvers, right? Maybe this is our best bet, even though the position's off, and it can just kind of show us what maybe mixing and matching a little bit. Boyan matches with the age gap, which is really nice. The position's not actually an ideal fit, even a secondary position. I guess maybe they overlap at small forward, but there are some nice badges here. So let's set him up with this. We're going to hit start and have Boyan kind of shadow or I should say Ivey shadow Boyan a little bit here and have them work together and see how it goes. So, same thing, right? Ivey is a 76 who's 20. He's got C+ potential still. By the way, the Pistons, that first simulation, made it as the 10 seed into the playoffs, which is kind of funny to even say that nowadays, but they did squeak in there. So again, pretty successful without the mentorship that first season, but let's see how season 2 goes here with Bojan Bogdanovic helping out Ivey. Okay, at the end of the second season, we see a slight uptick in points per game, rebounds and assists, I guess the small downtick there, but a pretty similar season. I mean, we could split hairs and really start looking through everything here with percentages and so on. Let's look and see. He did play a few more minutes. That would explain maybe the points being bumped up. As far as games played and games started, so there we do have some injury. It looks like a little bit there. Definitely missed some time, a good 10, 15 games or so. And only missed, I guess, a total of 4 games, but certainly started less this time around. So let's see if the attributes changed a whole lot, and not a ton. Overall, went up a point. It's showing 78 in the top right there, but we don't have the +1 this time, so I'm not exactly sure what that's all about. Maybe because the season's over for the Pistons this time around, whereas before they were still carrying on. But again, pretty similar. I mean, we're seeing still green upticks here. We're not seeing as much, honestly. It's kind of interesting. He actually seems to have not gotten as improved, and that might just have to do more with the amount of playing time. He got more reps in the first one. He was healthier in the first one. If we edit and go and look at the vitals, let's see if these changed at all. Nothing there changed at all again, so that looks to be the same. And if we just kind of look at Jaden Ivey a little bit deeper, to see if anything else here kind of popped or changed or anything like that. We don't suddenly see him being like a hard worker or anything. He hasn't earned that badge, so nothing's really changed there. First team All-Rookie, which I believe he won in the first sim as well. Let's see, the wear and tear at the end of the season, pretty standard here. He was looking the exact same way after the first season. But again, so pretty healthy overall, just that one injury. And maybe we can look and see the injury history here. So yeah, he missed 9 days there. with a broken nose. So again, pretty small impact. I don't think there is any impact when you're looking at a can be aggravated. Yeah, so I guess he could have it re-injured. What's cool is I wonder if this game will actually end up putting one of the face masks on him for like the rest of his career or something like that to protect that nose. That'd be kind of cool. But again, there's really not a whole lot here that I'm seeing, changing really at all with the mentorship. But let's try another run with it and see if we can get something else different. All right, so let's try a different mentor this time. Let's go back to the original plan we had. Let's have the position match up this time. Even though Burks is not the player that Bogdanovich is, let's see if maybe that position matching will help Jaden Ivey. And if we look at Burks versus Bogdanovich, as far as like age and overall and so on, 33 and a power forward, and it was 31 and a shooting guard. So again, position matches up, but the age gap's a little bit smaller here. The overall a little bit lower with Alec Burks at a 76. So, but let's just see. Let's go ahead and set this, and we'll see maybe if Burks can help Ivy a little bit more. All right, so how did Alec Burks do here as the mentor to Ivy? First, Pistons missed the playoffs the last two sims, in case you're curious if that has an impact or anything like that. But we're getting really similar results here. Again, 16.1 per game, rebounds and assists pretty darn close. Minutes per game, again, just hovering around 30, give or take. As far as games played, pretty healthy, but this time definitely more time coming off of the bench, I should say, not more time than starting, but more time than the previous two sims. So, but nonetheless, we actually seem to have gotten a little bit more progression from him. At least it's matching the first time. So it's weird that Bojan Bogdanovich, for whatever reason, had the least amount of impact, or you could say the injury to Ivy impacted him greatly, but it was only 9 games, right? So it's really hard to make out. If anything, I kind of like so far that it's a little bit random. It's not super predictable. Like, you're not always just going to say, oh yeah, do this and he'll be an 83. Jaden Ivey is just progressing here. Again, just the first year. But still, this is a nice progression, but not very different from the first one that we saw with no mentor at all. And by the way, these are all still using just default out-of-the-box training. We haven't messed with anything else other than just adding mentors here. But he's at a 78 up to a 79, I guess, current form, if you want to call it that. And again, really nice trait increases here that we're seeing. We still have not seen that potential change at all. But again, overall, looking pretty good. Oops, I went through those probably a little too quick, but we're seeing a lot of the same stuff here as we flip through. So this time he gets, I think Alpha Dog might be new, or Extremely Confident, one of the two. So some badges being added there. And again, that's just going to happen whether or not they're with a mentor or not, especially younger players with good potential. So first team all rookie again. And yeah, it looking really similar. So I'm not seeing a huge impact as far as mentors, perhaps not making a huge difference. But your mileage is going to vary. And I would imagine if you went out and signed a free agent, that kind of thing, who maybe just like their only role is to help Jaden Ivey along, maybe that's going to play a role. And I guess we'll try that one next and just see, because after that, I want to start diving in and looking at actual individual training focus or even team focus to see if we can really get Jaden Ivey to pop even more. Well, I actually take that back, because I really don't think there's much more we can do as far as free agency goes. Lance Stevenson, I don't think really moves the needle too much from what Burks was able to do. Even if we went to like a secondary position here, again, not really seeing anything. If we look at point guard, maybe Kemba Walker, but this isn't like really moving the needle too much. I mean, if we grab, Rondo or something like this, maybe there's something we could do there, but I don't really see that as being like a huge impact, especially when we saw how Bojan Bogdanovich didn't really do a whole ton for Jaden Ivey as well, being an 80 overall. So kind of interesting setup there. Again, secondary position as a point guard. I was thinking it was small forward for some reason, but so yeah, I mean, you can make an argument maybe that we could try Rondo or something, but I just don't think it's going to make a big impact. So instead, let's try to get a bigger impact by looking at team training and individual training next. So here we are back at the team training schedule, and I think I actually want to leave this one alone and focus more on the player. But let's just look at some of the things you can do here, right? So first, you have 3 weeks worth of practices and games that you can see. And even though you have kind of this weight showing, it's really just kind of, you have to really kind of read what's going on here, because if you look in the middle, there are no evening sessions anywhere other than games, obviously. But we have, even on the days of certain games, like there's morning shoot-arounds and that sort of thing, that looks to be pretty standard. You'll see there's off days scheduled, right? Like there's nothing here at all, even though there's still a weight. So it's really important to not get too locked into the icons. It looks like they have it kind of defaulted to after like a back-to-back game, take the day off. That makes a lot of sense to let players rest and heal. But otherwise, there's different things going on. So there's the team system training, study film, and so on, right? So studying film twice a week, more study film. There's a lot of studying going on. So off day there. We have off day again after the back-to-backs, individual workouts. A couple individual workouts this day. So basically you have like in 3 weeks, just 2 individual workouts, 2 team system workouts, and that's just by default. Of course, you can go in and change all of this. You can run doubles, triples if you really wanted to. There's going to be pros and cons to that. And there's a lot of moving parts. When you go in and change these sort of things, you can change the intensity, the fatigue, the injury risk. But the reason I want to leave this alone is just to try and control our testing a little bit more by just focusing on Jaden Ivey. Right, so we're going to go into the individual training here. We're going to go down to Jaden, and right now he is just set to have a low load management, right? So they're pretty low intensity. Injury risk right now is already at medium, but let's just say we want to go in and just change this to, well, let's go all out this time. Let's go high. Injury risk has not changed, so I don't know if that's based just off of load management or if that's kind of taking into account, again, like his durability, his age, injury history, what have you. And then let's go in and we're just going to have him focus on, I don't know, just all-around shooting guard, I guess. His compatibility is very high with that. That seems to be just fine. So let's do that. All around high, and let's simulate a season now. And just to compare it, we will leave the mentorship off this time and just see what just doing this does. All right, so with the intense training and the high workload or whatever it was we changed there, Jaden Ivey still puts up pretty similar numbers, maybe an uptick in his performance, but it looks to me like some of these percentages definitely took a hit. Where else he took a hit, and this is probably not a huge surprise, is the amount of games played and games started. He missed a lot of time, which of course is leading us to believe that he had some injuries going on. As far as minutes per game, again, pretty high. I mean, he was probably overused a little bit, and we could have easily done this test where, we would say, well, let's just turn off injuries. Let's just see how it goes. Well, I mean, what's the point of that? If you turn off injuries, obviously working him harder is going to progress him more. Maybe there's some other outlying risks, like you're upsetting the player and that sort of thing. But I don't think many people are going to be playing that way, or at least people who are interested in seeing a video about training would be playing that way, right? So I think it's safe to say that it's certainly a risk, and maybe you can do it in smaller samples, like we're just doing quick sims here. He still only had the 1 injury, which is weird. So how does that work? He only missed 4 days. That's interesting. I don't know what to make of that. He missed a ton of time for some reason. That must not be generating the injuries properly or something doesn't add up there. That's very, very strange. But did he win an award? Did I miss that? Let's see. Probably not if he missed someone. Oh, he still did. So still first team all rookie. So it's weird because, again, we look at his rating, right? It's still 78. Still C+ potential. I mean, like really nothing's making an impact, and I'm certainly not making that claim. I'm not saying that training doesn't matter or anything like that. There's patterns in here that are going to matter, but this is not a route I would want to go. Certainly at the risk of injuring a younger player. Let's see if it impacted any of his vitals here this time around by working him much harder. So let's see. None of that changed. Nope, nothing here is changing. And again, over time, perhaps that may start to narrow, or those ratings might not change at all because they're really just drivers for the overall rating and that sort of thing. So so far, nothing's really having a huge impact yet. Let's keep digging around. All right, so let's go all in on this final attempt here to see if we can get Ivy to pop. We're going to go Alec Burks, who seemed to give us a little bit better results because of the position matching up potentially, or who knows why. But let's go with that. And then let's go in and do individual training. We're going to tinker with some stuff here potentially. So let's go to Jaden. Shooting guard, offensive. Let's keep that the same. Let's just kind of stick with what they want to do, but maybe, I don't know if we want to change the load management or try low. I mean, let's go low, I guess, and just see what that does. I certainly don't want to go high. I'm sorry. Let's do it's been on low. Let's just try medium. That seems to be fair. And again, I guess if all things go well, then if he can stay healthy or at least not get too injured, should be our best result. But let's see if we can finally get him to maybe pop above that 79-80 range here in his rookie year. All right, let's see how this last test goes here. First off, Detroit has qualified as the 9th seed in the playoffs. That's the highest we've had them finish so far. Let's see if Ivy had a big role in that. And maybe 79 overall this time, up from a 78. So again, stays about the same. But again, nice rating pops here, but still nothing really standing out as different. Potential has stayed the same. And let's see what else we got here. Just some badge development happening. First team all rookie again. If anything, he's been extremely consistent throughout all of these tests. Let's see. Wear and tear looks the same. I'm like shocked at how just similar this has been. I mean, points per game, everything's looked really, really, really similar. Minutes per game, again, very, very similar. Games played here with this is that medium. So again, played in almost every game. Didn't start quite as many. I don't know. It's weird. At the end of this video, I don't have any conclusion to really draw. We've only done one player, and so maybe we do a follow-up with this, looking at potential other players. I mean, I think looking at older players isn't really going to make a lot of sense. I mean, Ivy I thought was a good pick because he's still a top 5 pick, but he wasn't like the first overall pick. But maybe we can start to look at that, or even look at maybe some generated players. But I haven't seen anything change. And again, this is not an attack on the game or anything. I mean, I guess if anything, I would say maybe it's a little bit too streamlined. And so maybe we can make the argument that it is just really, no matter what you do, you're more just kind of tied to these ratings because these are never changing. I mean, the team performed pretty similarly in each sim, anywhere between not making the playoffs and then barely getting in. But like we just haven't seen anything really happen, even when he's missed some time or has played and started in 77 games or 78 games, whatever it was. Not a lot has changed. So training, I don't know, your mileage is going to probably vary. I like that it's still, even after digging into it, it's still pretty unpredictable. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on this. I'm kind of perplexed at the end of this video. I'm not quite sure. I thought for sure we would kind of dig into this, and I was almost afraid to dig into it because I don't like looking under the hood too much. But I guess that's my positive takeaway, is that there's not a whole lot here that you can really kind of mess up by doing that very thing, by maybe looking at too much, because it looks to be very, very consistent in what's happening here. So anyway, like I said, let me know what you're thinking. If this video was helpful, give it a like. And if you have suggestions on other videos like this, I'm happy to dig into more. Just let me know what you're thinking there. But I'm Mike Lowe. I'm on Twitter at MikeLowe47, everyone. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your training. Let me know how it goes.